Yeah, I think it's myself that's lined up next. Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with so many great experts. Can everyone hear me well, which is always the first question to ask. So hopefully you can all hear me. Fantastic. Yeah, my name is Kent Reynolds. I'm a Senior Dispute Resolution Solicitor at the Jonathan Lee Network. We're a small firm based in Sussex. I do have a personal background in IT. In a previous life, I worked for an internet service provider, and I've always been following the technological news. I'm going to be talking about a few issues, not just AI in legal services, but a number of other issues. This presentation deliberately was actually done using AI. Obviously, I've made a few changes to it and that sort of thing, but just as a sort of demonstration, the little avatar that you see in the corner, that was generated by Apple's version of intelligence, which is Apple Intelligence, their version of AI. They've got an app called Playground that can convert photos into avatars. I'm going to be covering a few issues which may sort of overlap with what's been said previously, or there might be things that people already understand. But I believe it may be helpful to just go back to basics and remind ourselves a little bit about how the LLMs work. I've just taken control of this slide, so hopefully this will work. Brilliant. So yeah, my next slide is just what is an LLM. I'm sure a lot of us here understand that, but just by way of a reminder, the large language models work by probability of what the next word will be when they're constructing a sentence, hence why they're called large language models. Quite surprising that it can generate so much information and usefulness out of it. But at a basic level, I suppose us humans do something similar when we speak. We're working out what the next best word is. It learns patterns of language. It has basically swallowed the entire internet and knowledge and books and that sort of thing, which is where it comes in quite useful. But it doesn't quite understand things yet, which is part of the limitation that we see with using AI. So what's AI's application in law? Well, it's particularly useful in law because, of course, in law, words are our tools. We write letters. The law is written in language. So you've got legislation, you've got case law, etc. So the potential for AI to help in the legal industry is obviously vast, and we are right at the beginning. In my view, it's an opportunity to free up lawyers to think about things more strategically. If there are repetitive tasks that AI can do, sort of help you with and do quickly. So one of the things obviously it can do is it's very good at summarizing and analyzing information, because as a lawyer you'll receive information not necessarily in the precise most useful format for you, and you have to decipher. So sometimes if there's a huge train of emails or communications, AI can be very good at summarizing that for you. So at the beginning, you kind of know what's happening before you delve into the details. It can improve communication because you can ask an AI to redraft a communication in such a way that perhaps it's softer in tone or more diplomatic. So it's very good at that sort of task. And of course, it can carry out legal research. There is a big caveat over that because although it can be very useful in finding legislation and reporting on case law and that sort of thing, it does need to be double checked because it is very much a people pleaser, and therefore it will return results that may not be accurate, but look as though it's very plausible. So it is useful as a good starting point, but we, for example, obviously cross-check what it may produce and may even use other AI that is better at producing accurate information, such as Perplexity, to cross-check what, say, ChatGPT may be saying. It's quite useful also at correcting typos and grammars and that sort of thing. So just to move to the next slide, what are the challenges of the use of LLMs in the legal industry? Obviously, lawyers do tend to be relatively risk averse simply because of our training, and confidentiality is at the heart of legal work. Obviously, what you tell your solicitor needs to be kept confidential, needs to be secure, therefore. And then also you have the concept of privilege, which is where legal advice may be imparted, and that is something that should be kept between the lawyer and the client, for example. So you've got security as a challenge because you're obviously putting something in to what may be a third-party provider. Client perceptions I've put up there because not all clients embrace AI, and some may see it as perhaps you're not doing the full job that you ought to be doing, and perhaps you're cheating slightly. I dare say similar remarks probably were made when the first calculator arrived and was it putting arithmetic out of business. And then I've touched on the hallucinations and wrong information. There is a saying which is that the only thing worse than not knowing what the law is knowing the wrong law. So because the way ChatGPT in particular is trained to provide an answer come what may, is that it may provide a plausible answer that needs to be cross-checked, and that's obviously a challenge. So are there any solutions to the challenge is the next point. Well, there are paid tiers and more secure tiers that you can pay, for example, with ChatGPT, which helps mitigate that. You've got GDPR concerns because obviously merely storing information securely is not the only issue. I believe, as I think was touched on by Camrose, that the law, regulation may be lagging behind the technology. So is GDPR fit for purpose? Because technically speaking, if you're putting something into an AI, you're processing the information. And also with GDPR, there's a general policy that you provide as the minimum amount of confidential client information as necessary for the task, which may be counter to what people want to do, which is to use AI as a knowledge bank for all information, a repository of information that you can then retrieve from. But that conflicts with the GDPR philosophy of minimal information. So there may be a little bit of a clash between GDPR and then I've put mitigation. There's two main mitigation. One is obviously check with the LLM provider that everything is being kept secure, not being used for training, and perhaps have even confidentiality agreements with them. One of the interesting areas of mitigation is running a local LLM, which is actually possible. The people from Dell probably won't thank me for saying, but a lot of people are using the Apple Mac Studios for this because it has a unified memory structure where the memory can be used by the GPU as well as the CPU. And relatively inexpensively, one can run a local LLM on your network, which is obviously more secure because it's within your organization, not 100% secure, but slightly more secure. So that's one element of mitigation that one can adopt. And then I think there is an employment lawyer that may be coming on after me who may cover this in a bit more detail, but I just wanted to flag up the legal challenges raised by using AI, for example, selecting redundancy, using it for hiring and firing. Discrimination is a big issue, obviously, because one can program your AI to look for certain criteria. Well, who's carrying out the assessment then? And fairness, obviously, in the workplace if policies are being set by AI. But one would hope that a human would be cross-checking that. And then I believe, so the next slide is, yes, the future of AI. So I've put the large language model ceiling. AI has been good, I would argue, for maybe a couple of years now, maybe 3 years tops. There's been an exponential increase in its effectiveness, but we're seeing the law of diminishing returns now. The LLMs know what's on the internet now in its entirety, pretty much, but we're not adding information to the internet at the same rate. So there will be a law of diminishing returns and a limit with large language models. I believe Viscount Camrose touched upon the AI bubble, not helped by comments by Sam Altman that we were reaching an AI bubble. I think this is mainly because the markets tend to react and overreact to things, and I would point back to the dot-com bubble burst, where the fact that the market had overreacted to everything that was internet based didn't mean that the internet wasn't a great big thing. It was. There was just a market correction. So I believe we may see a similar thing with AI. A lot of people are just throwing money, investing into AI, not necessarily getting immediate returns. But what we may see is something emerge from that that is useful. I wanted to touch on generalist versus specialist. The large language models at the moment are general. They're able to do all tasks, but generally speaking, things that are specialist will be more useful. So a Swiss Army knife is brilliant, is good at doing a number of things, but it's not as good as a proper knife for cutting a loaf of bread or for unscrewing an appliance. We may see that with AI, with specialist versions of AI coming in, for example, for managing email or for other products. Touched on quantum computing. That's, I believe, going to be one of the new computing revolutions, which will be transformative of AI because it can just carry out activities way faster than a conventional computer, which will help with the machine learning aspect. And I've got the little sort of Terminator coming out. I don't think that we're going to see computers and LLMs take over at the moment because they're limited by the fact that they're large language models and not world language models. But there may be some issues when you start to have language models write other language models and where they can achieve something further than AGI, where they're actually performing tasks better than humans. So yeah, that's me covered. Sorry if I overran slightly with that, but happy to look at any questions later on.